J. Robert Oppenheimer was the scientist who engineered the bomb, the man who was able to take the embryonic field of nuclear physics from theory to product. Within the life of Oppenheimer, we will see illustrated at the individual and collective level the paradoxes of the human condition and its inherent capacity to lie to itself. At the turn of the century, on April 22, 1904, J. Robert Oppenheimer was born into the Jewish immigrant dream of America. His father, Julius, was a Jew who, at the age of 17, followed an older brother to New York City from Germany. Before Robert's birth, Julius had established himself as a successful businessman and a collector of fine art. Robert's parents doted on their two sons, Robert and his younger brother Frank, and lavished upon them all the opportunities and enrichment money could buy, from a progressive Jewish private school education to their own sailboat. It was a family that did not deny its Jewish roots, but very much wanted acceptance by the American elite. Young Robert grew into a bookish, socially awkward, unathletic boy who pursued solitary intellectual pursuits, such as rock collecting. This left him open to the teasing and ostracism of the other boys, whose acceptance he longed for. As he moved into his adolescence, Robert revealed a reckless side, taking great risks as a sailor, counterphobically driven by his own impulsive nature and a need to prove his athletic, manly acumen. This side of him further developed when he was taken on a trip at the age of 18, at the urging of his father, to New Mexico by Herbert Smith, a Gentile teacher from his private school. On this trip, he met Catherine Page, a beautiful Gentile woman, 10 years his senior, who ran a dude ranch. For the first time, Robert began to see himself as a sexual male and embraced America's iconic imagery of the warrior, the Western cowboy. The cowboy is an image that was created by Jewish immigrants. Most of the major film producers of early Hollywood were Jews who had originally lived within 500 miles of each other in Eastern Europe. Through cinema, they held up to Christian America a mirror it fell in love with. It was later used to great effect by American political figures, including Ronald Reagan and George Bush Jr. The cowboy, based on itinerant, illiterate, heavy-drinking farm workers, was transformed into a tight-lipped, cool, but righteous loner who killed people, but only when he had to, which turned out to be most of the time. While riding his horse through the New Mexico desert, Robert came up upon a breathtaking valley. It was one he would return to time and time again, and would eventually become the birthplace of the atomic bomb, Los Alamos. Oppenheimer did his postgraduate studies in nuclear physics in Germany with Max Born. He was drawn to Born's ideas about pacifism and, with double irony, formed friendships with other doctoral students in the nuclear physics program who would later work on the Nazis' failed atomic bomb project. After his studies, Oppenheimer was hired by the physics department at Caltech in California, which he chose in large part because of its proximity to the Los Alamos Valley. At the University of California at Berkeley, Oppenheimer studied Sanskrit, an ancient Hindu text, whose philosophy celebrated the here and now of work, duty, and discipline, but urged one not to think too hard about their consequences. It was from these texts that he was to take his famous quote regarding the first successful explosion of a nuclear bomb. By the mid-30s, Oppenheimer was able to attract young graduate students to Berkeley. However, if the candidates were Jewish, he found himself bumping into the brick wall of anti-Semitism. As Berkeley University President Bing said, one Jew in the department was enough. So Robert learned that although he was now inside the gate, he was by no means secure, that one's position was precarious, and without proper care, he too could end up outside the wall. Romance, however, was also to come his way at this time. He fell in love with Jean Tatlock, a beautiful but brooding Gentile intellectual, and her interests in English literature and left-wing progressive social causes. It was through Jean's interest in English literature that Oppenheimer took the name Trinity for the first nuclear bomb test. It came from a line written by the classical English Christian poet John Donne, "Batter my heart, three-personed God." Although much is being made today of the Islamic bomb, nuclear weapons were first christened by Christianity. However, the relationship with Jean Tatlock ended, and Robert went on to meet and eventually marry Katie Harrison. Katie, like Jean, came from an affluent Gentile background, but had a much more aggressive nature, being socially ambitious and known for a volatile temper. For their wedding, Robert bought his new bride a Cadillac, a new incarnation of the American dream, in which the cowboy now became a family man, sitting behind the wheel of a powerful, luxurious machine. With prescient irony, the newlyweds nicknamed their toy Bombsight. On July 29, 1939, news arrived that two German scientists had successfully split a uranium nucleus. Oppenheimer immediately grasped the implications of the experiment. "A uranium deuteride might very well blow itself to hell," he wrote a colleague.